I'm with my buddy here, Cody. How are you, Cody?
Not too bad. Sun's shining. Happy to be
Good,
here. How
man.
you doing?
Good, man. Good. I'm excited. We have a special guest on here, and not only is he special because he's my friend, but he's also a successful attorney locally. He's with the law offices, and forgive me if I say it wrong, Perez, Selsky, and Druckenmiller Law Office. Is that right, Matt?
Almost perfect. Perez, Zelsky,
Okay.
Druckenmiller.
Druckenmiller, sorry. But welcome, Matt. Matt, I think you're going to be cool to have on this podcast for multiple reasons. One, you're just fun to talk to, but two, you've been through the legal side of things. So I think this will appeal to a lot of people that either are thinking about getting into law, are in the midst of it and don't know kind of what direction to take, whether they want to start a firm, whether they want to get into a firm, all sorts of things that you've been through. You've been there, done it. Seen the successes, you've seen the failures, and you've gone through them all. So I think this is going to be a really cool topic to talk about. And I do think maybe it's just me and my history with the police world, but I am always interested in talking to lawyers. So I'm going to have fun whether anyone else does or not. So welcome, Matt, to the show.
Thank you very much.
Well, let's just get started. So Matt, you've had a lot of diversity in what you've done leading up to where you are right now. If you just kind of want to start on get us started on why you decided, hey, law is my thing. This is where I want to do it, and how you got up to where you are now.
Yeah. So I think from college, I decided that I wanted to go the law school route and go into law, and then had many, many, many detours along the way, I think is the best way to say it, in different careers and different industries. But eventually, after about 8 years, finally decided, 9 years, decided to settle down, go to law school, and actually become a lawyer. And so I joke, I started out of college in college, I did like corporate real estate. I worked at a summer camp. I worked in the shipping industry. I worked a bunch of random jobs. And then afterwards, I went into politics. So I always joke I'm maybe the only lawyer that can say I took a step up in my career in likability from politics to being a lawyer. Not many lawyers can say that, but I did my first 8 years in Salem in the Capitol, and then went to law school and have been practicing privately ever since.
So what got you into law? Like I think it's a unique enough field that it's not, that you kind of have to have either a drive to it for some reason or another. What got you into the law side of things versus just a regular old, 9 to 5 business type of job?
Biggest thing is I don't sit still very well. And I think law, especially the area of law I practice, gives you a lot of opportunity to do a lot of different things, a lot of different cases. It's never boring. You're always on the move. You're always looking at new things, learning new things. And that was a huge thing for me. I didn't want to sit still and do the same thing over and over again every day. So that afforded me something different. The other thing was I've always naturally, just I guess by character, have been enjoyed the rules and figuring out ways around them and figuring out ways to argue them and to show why I am right and they are wrong. And that's just a natural ability to slide into the legal mind frame and that type of thinking of applying the laws in different ways and reading very specifically to show why your side is more correct, I'll say, instead of right, more correct than the other side.
You were born for it.
Yeah, and I think my family would tell you that too.
That's great, and I got a firsthand glimpse of it all, being your real estate agent for the purchase and sale of your home. Said you've let me know multiple times where I am wrong and you are right, and so I have firsthand experience of that.
And again, it comes down to, well, you said this, but did you mean it?
And we still battle with that daily with each other.
We do. I think we always will.
Whether that's in work or personal life. So, but yeah, you've had a kind of a diverse history, or a history of where you said you were in politics. Can you kind of dive into kind of what that was like? Like, you were with the Marion County Circuit Court Veterans Division, right? And then
that was in law school. So I'll just give you so right out of college, I moved to Virginia to work on a governor's race. So in college, I got involved in politics and campaigns. And I worked on a congressional campaign down in Eugene and loved it. I don't know why I loved it, but I just loved it. I loved the competitive nature of it. I guess it's just being an ex-athlete. You love the competition. So then I got picked up to go work on a governor's campaign in Virginia, worked in D.C. for a little bit after that, and then came back to Oregon and was recruited to work in the Senate on the campaigns for senators turned that into working in the Capitol on the policy side while also doing campaigns, and then starting my own little consulting firm and doing small county races, judge races, county commissioner races on the side at night while I was also working on Senate races, state Senate races here in Oregon.
So you helped on the actual on the campaign stuff.
I did everything. Yeah. So because Oregon is a citizen legislator, I think this is what we call it. There's the session for the short session, which is about to start today, I believe, which is February. It was 2 weeks when I was working there. Now it's a month. And then during the off year, there's nothing. It's the interim. There's nothing going on. And then you go back the next year and it's the long session from January through July. But then again, there's nothing. So most of the Capitol staff that works for the actual senators and representatives transitions to campaign staff. So we do both.
Oh, nice. And what made you pivot then from the politics side to what you're doing now?
I had a great conversation with a great senator who essentially told me, with my personality and where I was, I had pretty much maxed out where I was going to go in politics. I had lost any desire to ever run for office after seeing what these men and women had to go through family wise and in their personal lives and the stuff they had to deal with. And I just burnt out, honestly. I burnt out and decided it was time for, it wasn't a healthy career path for me. The hours and the stress just wasn't worth it. I joke because I went into law, which is not much different, but I can make of this job what I want. I can make of this career what I want. Especially with the area and the firm that I chose. So that was the biggest thing, was just the burnout and the transition and knowing that I hit my top and it was time to move on. Whenever I hit the top of something, I'm like, okay, if I can't keep going forward, I'm not going to stay.
Yeah. I guess
did you know during that kind of transition that you wanted to get into law, or you just knew that you wanted to get out of what you were doing?
So go way back when. The reason I worked on a congressional campaign in the first place was I thought with my grades and my LSAT, I needed a really good recommendation letter to get into law school, and to have a congressman write me a recommendation letter would be great. So, and then I fell in love with it, but I'd always wanted to go to law. That was always going to be the next step. So it was just finally just sitting down and do it.
That's cool. And I was going to ask you, because, my previous law enforcement, we've heard about the lawyers going through. What was the law school like? I know a lot of people that might be thinking about it. It's a pretty intense program, right? You went with Willamette. Is that who you got?
Yeah, I went to Willamette Law after graduating undergrad from the greatest university in the United States of America, University of Oregon. Then I went to Willamette Law.
Wow.
Yes,
I'm getting off this podcast.
I had to figure a way to work that. I had to figure a way to work that one in here. I went to Willamette Law. Absolutely loved the law school experience. Most people don't. I loved it because I treated it like my normal day job. I got there early in the morning. I left around 5 or 6 at night, and I didn't stop working the entire time, reading in the library, going to class. And for me, it was great, but it is a struggle for a lot of people. You get put on the spot like you've never been put on the spot before. There's a famous movie, Paper Chase. It's pretty dang close to what you go through.
Really?
And you got to be ready at all times. And as soon as you start daydreaming, these professors are amazing at just nabbing you. And it's great. It makes you think. It really does change the way you think. But I've never read so much in my life. I was able to skate by most of high school and undergrad without doing too much studying and just getting by with listening to the lectures. But in law school, it's completely different. You've got to put in the work. You got to be ready to put in the work, or you're not going to make it.
That's what I've heard. Is it's pretty intense how they run the program, at least at Willamette, from what I've heard. So
yeah, but I enjoyed it. If you treat it like a job and you're willing to commit to that time and that effort, you're going to do great.
Yeah. And your company now, or your firm now, what do they specialize in, or what do they specialize in as a whole, as a firm? And then what do you particularly work with? Like what sort of cases do you particularly work with?
Yeah. So as a whole, we're a 4-attorney firm, and all 4 attorneys do something different. So as a whole, we have a civil side and we have a criminal side. We do everything from criminal defense, juvenile defense, adoption, family. That's the only family law we do, adoption. But then for me, I do civil law. I do workers' compensation as my main. And then I do a little bit of dabbling in personal injury. I try to limit myself with that. but mostly workers' comp. And then Peter, one of our other partners, is just starting to get into real estate transaction and real estate litigation, as well as he's going to be taking on some personal injury cases from me as well.
Wow.
Well, a whole variety of
that?
things there.
Yeah. We they started as a criminal defense, and we've just kept growing since then.
Yeah. So do you have any like cool story you want to share with us? Like, I know that you probably have a ton, but can you share them? I don't know if you can.
Yeah, the problem is, I don't know, cool for me may not be cool for
That's true.
everybody
That's
else.
true. What's exciting for the normal person? I think that when you listen to these sort of things, you always want to talk to a lawyer about like that stuff. Same with you talk to a cop, you're like, what's your coolest story? What's your cool, I guess like what's your most unique thing that's happened to you in your career with this stuff?
Yeah, I can share. I can't share specifics. The coolest thing for me, of course, is winning. It's always going to be winning, and especially now because I represent. I've switched in my career. I started out as a claimants attorney representing workers and people that are injured in accidents. Then, I'll tell you this kind of a fun story. I went to my former boss informed me the night before a hearing on a file that I've never picked up that I was going to be doing the hearing in the morning because he had a family conflict come up. So I picked up the file, about, that thick file, never seen it before, went through everything, showed up at the hearing the next morning and met another attorney, and me and him just talked like we are now. And I usually get there about a half hour early, and I was there about 45 minutes early, and so was he. And we just talked and talked and talked. We did the hearing. I ended up prevailing, and after the hearing, he called me and offered me a job, and I actually switched sides. I went to work for him on the insurance defense side for a while. I did that for 5 years, and then he decided to move on and retire. And it was perfect time for me to, I think me and Joe have talked about this, one of my big clients dissolved. So it was perfect time for me to jump back onto the claimant side. And I came over and joined one of my best friends from law school and his partner, and joined them and started a whole new area of practice for them.
That's great, man.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm probably not the only person that's asked you this, but so my wife and I have recently been watching Suits. And how
Everybody has.
I know, right? And I'm sure you've probably been asked it a million times, but you're the only lawyer that I think I know that I've talked to. How is it Hollywood what they're doing there?
Yes.
Like, obviously it's a different type of law, but like what's interesting to me about it too, this kind of is more of a statement than a question in this part, but the relationship between the two sides, the lawyer sides, it seems very much just business as usual, right? Like both sides want to win, and they're almost admiring each other's strategies behind it. I guess I'm just kind of curious, like how much is there conversation that goes on? How much is there of what you see, say, on movies, on TV, that is the actual real life side of it?
Yeah, so I haven't watched much Suits. I think
Okay.
I did when it first came out, like 10 years ago?
Yeah, it's been a while.
But from what I remember, that's big corporate law. So I
Yeah.
really can't speak to that because I'm not a big downtown wear a suit everyday attorney. I wear a golf shirt just in case I want to go golfing. Always ready to golf.
That's right.
But we're a smaller firm. We're out in McMinnville. We, have a small office. We're very casual. I can tell you, I've interviewed and been at a lot of those big firms, and it's a lot more casual than you'll see on TV. I don't know if anybody wears a suit anymore unless you're going to court. When we're going to court, we always suit up, but other than that, I don't think we do. I think we were talking about this yesterday in our office. The use of paralegals is very different on TV than it is in real life. And to be honest, again, this isn't my area of practice, but a lot of times that's due to billing. Attorneys don't hand over legal work to non-attorneys because they can't bill at the same rates.
Makes sense.
So you won't see paralegals doing legal research like that in the real world because they can't bill for that at the same rate as an attorney can.
I see.
But as for the relationships, I can talk to the workers' compensation section of Oregon, and most attorneys, there's always the exception to the rule, but most attorneys work incredibly well together.
Okay.
We all understand the cases. We all understand if we're going to win or lose. Most cases, going in if you're going to win or lose before you get there. You know the judge, you know how they rule, you know your evidence, you know what's good, you know what's bad. But sometimes your clients make you go. sometimes no matter what advice you give to your client, you got to go. You got to go fight it. Or if they're not offering a settlement, or if they just refuse to settle, their client doesn't want to settle. You go and you do it. And everybody really, especially in workers' comp, everybody works really well together. We a lot of us socialize. I'm going out with another attorney tomorrow night for dinner. It's just how it works. It's not this. It's competitive in the hearings room, but outside of that, everybody's usually trying to work together to find a solution that works for everybody.
Yeah, that's interesting. Nice. Yeah. We were talking about it when Cody and I were prepping for this interview, we were talking about how the settlement process works. And it seems like, at least, in the law enforcement realm, we settled a lot. Is that, how much are you in court going at it, and how much are you, settling out of court? Because we were saying that it's a lot, you see on TV, everything. All we know, if you're not in the law world, all you know, just, is what you see on TV, just like the Law and Orders and all the stuff.
Right.
How much is it, you're battling in court on a daily basis versus let's settle this and get it done with for the benefit of everyone?
So best examples I can give you is my January calendar. I had 25 hearings on my calendar for January, and one went.
Okay.
Out of the 25 cases, only one went to hearing.
Okay.
And even after hearing, even after court, a lot of times you settle before the judgments come out. You'll settle.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think we say 80 to 90% of all workers' comp cases settle. 90% of all personal injury cases settle before they're even filed. And then out of the ones that filed, about 75% of those settle before you get to court.
Oh, and do you find that is it because they see, the writing on the wall, or is it because one or the other company just sees the financial benefit of settling versus not? Is it guilt or innocence, or is it the money that's going to be involved with going forward with it?
So for us, specifically in the workers' comp realm, we can do two types of settlements. One's they deny your workers' comp claim. Then I'll come in, I'll file a request for hearing. We'll go to a hearing, or a lot of times we'll do all the workup. We'll talk to all the doctors, and they'll see that either our evidence is insurmountable, they're going to lose, and to mitigate because they end up having to pay my attorney fee, not my clients. So to mitigate that expense, we'll reach what's called the stipulated settlement. They'll just agree to accept the claim and then pay me a smaller attorney fee, which saves me time and money too. So it works out for both parties. And then my client will get all his benefits, workers' comp benefits, accepted. On the other hand, you have like a full claim settlement, which you probably think of as where, money's exchanging hands. And that's because they're looking at their percentage of winning. We're looking at our percentage of winning. And we're deciding what's more beneficial to our clients both ways. And is it just paying it out, or is it fighting?
Okay. I guess I'm going to jump all over the place because I have a billion questions for you. But I guess when you handle people and you're handling their issues and their struggles and everything they're going with, I can imagine that you obviously have your own setbacks and dealing indirectly and directly with their setbacks. And so how do you manage that, not only on an internal level with yourself of whether your client needs this, didn't get it, or whatever, any setbacks that happen during your case, how do you deal with that on a personal level, but also help your client with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think this is where attorneys get a really bad rap for being so cold. We're taught in law school that half of our job is to be a lawyer, half of our job is to be a counselor. And especially in my area of law, you're dealing with people that are in pain, that are might not, they're your average working folks. They don't have $1 million to pay for these healthcare bills. They're scared. They're in pain. So there's a lot of hand holding, a lot of comforting. But at the same time, just blunt honesty is my policy. I'm just going to tell you how it is. And it sucks some days, for lack of better words. It's tough, especially when you have death cases, especially when you have big injuries that you just can't get the evidence, because we're so reliant on doctors and talking to doctors every day to get our evidence. If the doctor just can't support you, you just got to tell the client that. You just got to be blunt. And it's hard. It's hard. But, again, this is another reason lawyers get bad raps is we learn how to divorce ourselves from that. And you have to. Otherwise, you can't drag other people's problems home with you.
For sure. For sure.
I can imagine that'd be.
I got enough of those at home with my 2-year-old biting me and hitting me every day.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask about that. What is life like for you outside of work? What's family dynamic? What do you like to do for fun? What kind of gives you a little bit of release from the stress of everyday work.
Yeah, so like I said, married with a 5-year-old. She's going to be 6 on Monday, and a 2-year-old little boy. And so a lot of time with them, spending a lot of time with the family. Recently, thanks to Joe, my mom moved to town from Florida. And then my brother just moved here, so we're spending a lot more family time. This is the first time since 2005 we've all lived in Oregon. So spending a lot more time with family recently, which has been great. But then I golf. I love golfing. And that is me and the 3 other attorneys here. We will make sure to play plenty of golf during the week, discuss cases, discuss life in general.
Yeah.
But it's also really nice to have a law firm with 3 other people, 2 of them my age, and we all go through it together. So we all have the same different family dynamics, but the same issues, the same struggles, the same thoughts, and it's kind of nice.
Yeah. What's your go-to golf course?
So we go to Michael Book.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
I've got a friend that's a member there. So
mine is. We have a law firm membership there, so we'll play there. And then we've ventured out to Langdon. I really like McNary. I used to play there in law school, so I really like playing McNary.
Okay.
Of course, lawyers and golf. I knew we were going to get on this somehow. But yeah, just anywhere. I just love getting outside, and it's a great, 3.5 to 4.5, depending on who's in front of you, hours of just outside time away from everything, and more aggravation than you'll ever get in a courtroom.
For sure. And exactly. But I think it goes to, you have to have that outlet, of getting away. Even if you're talking about it on the golf course, it's much different than talking about it in the office. But which leads me to kind of a question I have, like, for people that, are either in the midst of it, in the midst of law school, thinking about getting into the law side of things, what sort of skills do you think are necessary? Like a basic, you have to have this to be a good lawyer and to have a successful career as a lawyer. What skills do you think you have to possess to get there?
Work ethic. Number 1, you got to be willing to put in the hours and put in the work. We joke that, I tell you that I know everything. You got to understand that you don't know everything, and that you've got to look it up. Everything is available to us. Everything, we have the software, we have the legal research tools to find the answer to everything. That's our job, is not to know the answer, but to find the answer. Mm-hmm. So you got to have that work ethic to put in the hours, to put in the time, to put in the grunt work to get those answers for your clients and to win. But you also have it's funny, I'll say this but you have to have a lot of humility too, because you're going to lose. And you got to be able to accept losses, and you got to be able to explain to your clients when you're going to lose. And it's not always the most aggressive people that make the best lawyers. Sometimes it's the people that are just more relaxed and able to communicate well with their clients on the other side that make the best lawyers.
Okay. I have given you tons of advice and pieces of advice in our short relationship that we've had that is probably something that sticks with you forever. But for what, as a lawyer, have you the best piece of advice that you've gotten as a lawyer that's kind of really stuck with you and said it's something maybe you kind of go back to whenever you're struggling or whatever? Any sort of advice or any sort of mentor you had that has kind of helped you through this and helps you through this as you go through this career?
Yeah, so I had 2 great mentors at my last firm. Both, one had practiced for 50 years. He's still practicing. The other just retired, and he had been practicing since probably 35 years. Being able to move on. You got to be able to move on. You're going to take your wins. You got to take your losses. You can't dwell on it. You got to be able to move forward. Take what you learned. Take your losses, learn from them. Take your wins, learn from them, and move forward. Don't get stuck dwelling, because otherwise you're never going to be able to put what you've learned to the next case.
That's great. And I don't know the law side of things with this, but you always go with, in the scheme of starting your own business, there's the firm side of things. So you can join a firm. How difficult is it to not only to start a firm, but to join a firm and become a partner in that firm? What's kind of the track? What's the easiest track? What's the track that you went through? How does that work for someone who doesn't know how that all goes?
Yeah, so for lawyers / law students, there's 3 real positions, or I guess 4 real positions you can have in a law firm. First, you start out as a law clerk, and you hope that turns into an associate job, which you eventually hope turns into a partner job. And then you can stay as a partner as long as you want. There's also this other position called of counsel, where you're essentially just doing your own thing, but you're affiliated with a firm. But so most of us will start as a law clerk at some place while we're in law school, work while we're in law school, graduate, pass the bar, then we get jobs as associates. Typically, once you can afford your salary times 3, plus another associate salary, plus a staff salary under your own income, then they're going to consider you for partnership. Doesn't mean you're going to be a partner. They'll consider you. It's mostly money driven, making sure that you're going to contribute to the partnership financially, and you have a sustainable practice. They give you the tools, they introduce you to the clients, and you're able to develop your own book of business and take that and run with it, and then support your own side of the practice, your own book of clients, and then staff to help.
So you run your own shop, really, but within a firm, right? Like you're running your chunk of the business.
Yep. So, I joined my 2 partners 2 years ago with the understanding that it was a great deal for me. I was looking to move on from the firm I was at. It was a perfect time. And they essentially helped fund the start of the workers' comp practice, so I wouldn't have to take the risk. A lot of attorneys take that risk, take the jump, and just start their own firm with no clients in place, no money, no nothing. My 2 friends, thankfully, and now partners, they funded this project, understanding that it was going to be pretty profitable. It was going to turn within a year or two a good profit, and it has. So not everybody has that luxury, but essentially once we did that, and then I run the entire work comp practice from our firm. So anybody that comes to us for work comp, it's me and my assistant. And then in May, I'll be bringing on a law clerk.
Okay. So with technology, technology is always advancing and kind of changing everybody's jobs a little bit. How have you seen things, or where do you see things going? Maybe an impact that you had even since, say, COVID, right? That changed a lot of businesses on how they operate, and paperwork, work from home, all that stuff. Like, how much have things changed since you've gotten into it, and how much do you see the potential of technology changing your job or the law? Because obviously the law itself isn't changing, but have things changed at all with how you operate behind the scenes or anything since, over the last 5 years or so?
Oh, absolutely. COVID was a game changer for my practice. When I first started, everything was on paper. Every client meeting was in person. You would wait weeks to sign things. You would wait, for your client to be available. Sometimes we'd have to hire couriers or ship things out of country to where clients have left because it's been 2 years since their case started. Now everything, I have met with one client in person for an initial intake interview in 2 years. We do everything over the phone. Everybody's so comfortable now just doing everything over the phone, which greatly expands my practice area to the entire state of Oregon.
Yeah.
We advertise, we take clients in from everywhere in Oregon. We put ourselves out. We can practice anywhere. We can do anything. Our court hearings have gone, you can do them in person, you can do them over the phone, or you can do them via Zoom. Another big thing is we've gone completely paperless. We're a completely paperless law firm. So we use special law firm softwares to track all of our cases, to keep our records, to keep our diaries, to keep our calendar. And it's all integrated. This is all much newer than when I first started. Even the legal search software has gotten so much more sophisticated from when I initially started. And my 2 mentors would joke, they started with books. And now we've transitioned into having every, work comp case published, and just right there, you just type in the numbers and there it is. So it's pretty amazing. And I think where we're moving is AI. And I don't know if you saw the story about, and I'm not too familiar with it, but I know there was a lawyer not in Oregon, in some other state, that used AI to write his entire brief. And he got disbarred.
Really?
I want to say it was in Ohio or something like that.
Wow.
But yeah, he ended up getting disbarred because of all the errors in it, because AI is not quite there. But we're starting to utilize in our firm a little bit. We're starting to utilize AI for case research, for internal memos, nothing that we would give to our clients or submit to a court, but for internal memos as great launching points for finding cases and doing that. And they're predicting that it could even take the place of an associate in the next, 10 years. You may be able to get all your legal research that you would give to an associate, and even your writing, into AI. Now, I don't know if I could ever fully trust that myself.
Yeah.
I'd just be too afraid not to do make sure the cases are what they say they are, because law is so complex and the slightest word changes everything. So, but they're saying it's coming. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that it's, at least for the research portion of like even directing you to the cases, like I think that saves a ton of time. Just, hey, give me whatever case is on X thing, and then you can sift through it. I think that saves a ton of time just from doing your own research into that. So that's cool. That's cool. Well,
yeah, it's going to be a new world here soon.
Yeah. And it sounds like at least your firm is keeping up with it. So that's good.
We're trying.
I think at least you're trying. I think in the real estate world, in the lending world, Cody and I have talked about it a lot, is that you're either going with it or you're not going to last. We can always say, oh, it's a trend, it's a fad, but man, social media, AI, all that stuff is here to stay whether we like it or not. And if you're a business, you've got to start either incorporating it or being aware of it and how to how to do your own thing to battle that, because it's just not, at least in my opinion, it's not going away anytime soon. So
should I be able to use a computer to buy my next house, Joe?
No, you'll never be able to be the real estate agent.
It's only excluded from real estate transactions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure.
No. Yeah, unless I can make my own AI that makes money like my own, then you can. But we'll talk about that off.
We still got to keep using you.
I knew there was going to be a certain point where this podcast went south, and here it is.
Gotta get a few shots in.
I know. No, I totally get it. But Matt, before we let you go, if you just want to kind of give your pitch on kind of how people can reach you guys, what sort of issues, if they've got any, what sort of issues you guys can handle for them, and then how to reach you if they do have those issues.
Yeah. So, our website's the first place to start, always PSD Lawyers with an S. Like I said, we do almost everything civilly except for everything criminal law, a lot of civil law, adoptions. We're getting into real estate transactions, real estate litigation. But workers' comp is my main bread and butter. So anybody that gets injured at work, always get a lawyer. It's free. You don't pay us. The insurance company does.
Yeah.
Do not try to go against a billion-dollar insurance company alone. This is why I always tell them, this is why the system is set up like it is. We are here to help you equal the playing field.
Yeah.
And that's our job. Even if nothing's going on, it's always nice to have us on the front end, because something eventually does go wrong. When you start exceeding their budget and their reserves, that's when they start shutting things down. And you want to be ahead of that.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, Matt,
especially when you're talking
on.
about your livelihood.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, thanks for being on. If you guys, what I'm going to say is, if you have any law stuff, just call Matt. He'll direct you to the people that need to go. If it's not him that can take care of it, he'll direct you to the people that can. So thank you, man, for being on. It's been great talking to you. We'll hopefully have you on again in the future, and we can talk about, some specific cases or something. Maybe my cases, if we're getting into real estate law.
Yeah. Hey, we're here. We're here when you need us.
Sounds good. Well, thank you.
Or we'll just follow you.
Yeah. Go full stalker mode.
Awesome. Okay, guys. Well, that's it. Thank you so much, and we will chat with you all soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, guys.